Hello, it's been a while since Chapter 1 of Project Eden's Garden released, so I thought about making a short review video just to show my appreciation. First of all, thank you to everyone who was involved in working on this project and giving us this Christmas gift. And of course, congratulations for the successful early release of the chapter. All the aspects regarding this project in terms of writing, art, cinematics, sound, gameplay, and voice acting are definitely comparable in quality to that of a commercial release. I imagine a lot of people had to sacrifice a lot of their own time to work on this project, and their passion is reflected in the end product, including people who maybe had a more organizational role or worked on something that is not visible on the screen, such as programming, testing, or development. I hope this video can give you some useful feedback. There were a few bugs and gameplay issues, but they were not a big deal. Overall, it was a very enjoyable experience to play the chapter. As a side note, I imagine a lot of people end up watching the gameplay on YouTube, but playing it for yourself is definitely more enjoyable. So if you can play it, I definitely recommend you doing so. For this review, I won't go too much into specifics, but I'll just transmit some overall thoughts and impressions after playing the chapter. I should mention that I'm mostly a casual follower of the project since I like Danganronpa and murder mystery stories in general. Afterwards, I'll include some new theories and analysis based on what happened this chapter. Not a new death order prediction, just some general thoughts on what I think might happen to some characters. P.S. Obviously this video includes chapter 1 spoilers, so keep them in mind.
Let's get this started, shall we?
First of all, I think it's a great idea to have the support kill the antagonist in the first chapter. Both the victim and the killer were a total surprise to me, and a lot of people as well. Not once did I suspect them of dying so early, so well done. Also, obviously I don't know if this was the experience of other people playing the game, but when it came time to pick the killer, I did so based on my memory of the image of the tournament people playing the fighting game. And at this point I kind of did vaguely remember who was in that picture, but I still had to piece it together. So it went something like this. Yes, Damon and Kai were playing, Grace was a little to the side and said something to Jean, and Jett and Cassidy might have also been there too. And in fact, when I first saw the image, I do remember it was a little odd not to also show Eva. So anyway, if this process/experience is what you were hoping to achieve, it definitely worked with me, and I would say probably other people as well. Some of the best moments in chapter 1 for me were the sound of the footsteps in the basement and really all the suspense around the entire scene before the BDA with the whole blackout and everything. Grace's "Shut the fuck up!" during the trial. Diana saying he's too nice or she's too nice during the first part of the trial. The reveal of Eva's real ultimate title and the subsequent scene with her in the storage room when you really start feeling sorry for her, and other scenes as well. The camera angles and the moving text during the trial were great. I did notice some creative shots, and the way the text moved during each non-stop debate felt really dynamic and fun, while also not going overboard in my opinion. In regards to the minigames, I'll be honest, I was really bad at pachinko, but I also didn't really try that hard at it. As for the argument altercation, I do think it's a good minigame to play against the killer, even though I did find it way too hard at min difficulty. But I don't mind that, let the hardcore people who are really into this stuff do their min difficulty, damage speedruns. I'll just pick normal action difficulty next time. I also think the way the free time events are done is really good. I noticed that a lot of the time when you start a free time event, you will get a small scene with that character talking about recent events, and after that you get the actual free time event. This is a good solution because this way the character you're talking to can mention other characters without spoiling that the other character will basically outlive the character you're talking to. For example, Ulysses talks about how Wolfgang is a bad roommate, but he obviously won't mention this in the next chapter. Now I want to go through some theories/predictions for some of the characters, and I will of course start with Wolfgang.
I won't give up until the world knows.
I want to again praise the writing here because he could have been a very obvious first victim, but he was not. Obviously, a lot of people who are fans of murder mystery and even people who are fans of Danganronpa are aware of tropes in this genre, and I feel like the knowledge of those tropes works against you in this case, because you expect him to stick around to be the rival character who has a dark mystery lurking beneath. He was one of my favorites, but since he was such a big presence, I think that with him gone, the story becomes more unpredictable, and other characters get more time to shine, to fill in the gaps that he left. And him being the first victim was foreshadowed from the prologue. Aside from the sacrificial lamb reference, Wolfgang is the second person Damon sees after Eva. When he and Eva wake up in the boiler room, Damon looks through the vent and sees Wolfgang's feet lying unconscious on the floor of the dining room. In the end, was he a wolf in sheep's clothing or a sheep in wolf's clothing, or was he both sheep and wolf, like I mentioned in my video? I'm honestly not sure anymore. Maybe it depends on your perspective, and I do wonder which one he would see himself as. We might get answered regarding the mysteries still surrounding him later in the story, but for now we can use his actions to speculate. Obviously he was very controlling and put up a front with all his hope speeches, but a lot of things in this chapter alone indicate cracks behind that sheep's mask. Him taking the knife, lying to Grace, suggesting people meet in private to resolve their blackmail, his room being messy, and Ulysses stating that Wolfgang is a bad roommate. And although some people were already drinking the Kool-Aid with him, such as Diana, Angr, Toshiko and Jett, others such as Damon, Eva, Eloise and Winona were skeptical of him. We can come up with some theories regarding him by looking at his blackmail, his hallucinations before his death and his free time events. First of all, regarding his blackmail, I do wonder if his father is someone who is known to be a bad person, like his father is a known serial killer or something, and any association with him was supposed to make Wolfgang lose the trust of his classmates. But the blackmail could also just be something that would make Wolfgang emotional, like someone would come to him with this ominous note about his father, and that would make him have an emotional breakdown like in the class trial. I think that's why he was hallucinating about his parents too, because he was supposed to meet in the boiler room to discuss his blackmail. And he must have suspected those who would include something related to his father or parents. So he was probably thinking about his family history constantly and stressing out over it when he went down to the boiler room to meet the sender of the note. I say he was hallucinating his parents because that seems to be the obvious case. He was probably hallucinating either his father or his mother, or maybe both of them, one after the other. And based on what he says in his delirious state, we could try to make some guesses in regards to the meaning of his blackmail. First of all, he says, "I am finally meeting you." So that means he never met this person. He also says he can't become this person, that he isn't like this person, and asks to be forgiven for what he's become. After Diana holds his hand and he slashes her with the knife, he commands her or the person he's seeing to bring her back. And finally, right before he dies, he says he wants the world to know him as something. So, if we go by the theory that he was talking to his dad, who is also a wolf in sheep's clothing, we could interpret his monologue in various ways. Firstly, this would mean that he never met his father. So maybe his father and mother divorced and he left her, or maybe he is in jail after committing a crime. But since Wolfgang indicates he wants to be like this person, it indicates that his father has a good public image. So does that mean that his father is dead and Wolfgang has an idealized image of him, which he desperately tries to emulate? In this case, reading the Black May could have been a surprise to Wolfgang as well. All his life he's seen his father as a heroic symbol and he has desperately tried to be like him. But because he kept trying to be this idealized and heroic image of his father, he always felt like an imposter, like a wolf, not knowing that his dad wasn't all that perfect either. But after seeing his free time events, I'm leaning towards the idea that Wolfgang was seeing his mother. The fact that he says, "I am finally meeting you and I'm sorry I can't be like you," must mean that he never actually met his mother. And that would make sense even with the fact that he talks about his mother in his free time events. I mean, why else would he watch tapes of her trials? Because she's not actually there for him. Plus, he also mentions something about wanting to continue where she left off. So maybe she's not in his life, like she divorced and his father got custody, or she's dead. The blackmail could be meant to strike a nerve to Wolfgang. His father could be a very successful individual that is respected by society, but in private, Wolfgang could see the cracks behind the masks, the manipulations and controlling aspects of his father. And since he never met his mother, maybe he suspects he did something shady with her, like maybe he married her for money and later she died under mysterious circumstances. In this case, I'm thinking he wants to be like his mother, who was kind and honest, but instead he becomes like his father under his influence, controlling and manipulating under a mask of perfection and empathy. When he says bring her back, I'm thinking he's talking about his mother, and he could be saying this either to his father, but also possibly to Diana. Maybe the drugs started to wear off and he stopped seeing Diana as his mother for a moment, which is when he attacks her. Of course, it's also possible neither of his parents are in his life. Maybe the mom is dead and the dad is in jail for killing her. It would explain why he got so angry during the prologue and said that killing a woman is the worst thing a man could do. It might also be the motive for him getting so emotional during the prologue, when it was suggested that Cara's killer might have acted in self-defense. Remember, he also talks about a self-defense case his mother had. Given all the information we have, it seems likely he wants to be like his mother, who represents the sheep, but believes he is more like his father, the wolf. I'm thinking it's likely his father must have attacked his mother at some point and she was killed, or maybe she acted in self-defense and they both died. It's also possible his mother is still alive and just not in Wolfgang's life. Her not wanting to represent men could stem from a bad relationship with Wolfgang's father. His final phrase makes it seem like he feels tremendous guilt over constantly maintaining his idealized persona and wants to admit he's not so perfect. So I'm thinking he took up his mother's family name, Akire, and maybe he was also raised by her side of the family. The reason he's so obsessed with justice could be that he's trying to overcompensate over his shame of being associated with his dad, because right before dying he says he wants the world to know him as ... I'm thinking whatever it is his father did, the fact that he's his son could be a secret. Maybe the grandparents intervened to hide his parentage, either out of pride or out of a desire to protect Wolfgang. My thoughts were a little jumbled and I don't think I explained it very well, but I think you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to say. P.S. Have you noticed that from the presents, Wolfgang is the only one who doesn't like the bear? I feel like that might be connected to some childhood trauma. I assumed Grace had brought the bear to his bedroom, but maybe it was there from the beginning as a special present from Tozu to Wolfgang. Now about Eva. First of all, credit to EB for calling it that she will be the first killer in her first prediction video. And there's also the prediction that basically Damon will tempt her to commit murder, which is kind of what happened even if it was inadvertently. Because when she first discovered the poster, Eva's first instinct was to tell everyone about it, yet Damon told her to keep it hidden. Let's say when they all met up, Eva told everyone about the poster. Even if the scene with the profiles would play out the same and she ran away embarrassed, I don't think she would have been able to solve the poster riddle by herself anymore, because the others would try to solve it as a group. Let's say Eva still solves it. I think she would do it because the others would pester her to do so, regardless of the embarrassment of her lie. And that would mean that the door with the pin pad would be opened while everyone was present. I think that in that situation, Tozu would either come out and tell everyone about the trader perk, or say only one person may enter, and he would explain the trader perk only to that person. But in that case, I'm thinking the others wouldn't let Eva be the one to go through the door either. Even if after telling people about the poster she would just run away to her dorm and the door with the pin pad would remain unopened, I still think it's likely she wouldn't try to solve it anymore because it would draw too much suspicion on her. I know some people think Tozu explained the conditions for the traitor perk before she took it, but I don't think that's the case, because that way it's more likely for a murder to occur, and otherwise the threat of you have to kill someone as soon as possible or you will die soon isn't as effective anymore, because you can just refuse to take the perk now and take it later. It just makes more sense for the perk to be automatically given to you when you enter the room with the pin pad. So I think that Tozu's trap worked like this. Plant some hope in the heads of the students that there is something important in the pharmacy. The students naturally respond with curiosity, find the poster, solve the riddle, and access the room with the pin pad. Then Tozu shows up and says something like, "Congratulations, you won the traitor perk and now you have to kill someone." So basically I don't think Eva was given a choice in regards to accepting the perk. A question about Eva is, when did she get the traitor perk and make up her mind to kill someone? I think it was right after the scene where her real title was revealed. After she ran back into the pharmacy, everyone left to their dorms. She was in a particular vulnerable state then and decided to solve the riddle in order to feel better about herself. I think this is correct because Diana says during the trial that she got the note to meet in the boiler room 2 days ago, midday-ish. That is right the next day after the profile reveal and the first day of the free time. That means that after the profiles were revealed, the next day around midday, Eva was already implementing her plan. It is possible that she had already decided to kill even before this when Tozu explained the killing game, but I'm leaning more towards the traitor perk being the cause. In any case, what this means is that at the very least, during all her interactions after the reveal of her true title, she had already decided to murder. So this means that during her free time events with Damon, during their talk in the storage room when she says she trusts him and talks about why she decided to lie about her title, during her whole time with Diana and during her time with Cassidy and the other partygoers, and most likely even when Diana offered her an olive branch by volunteering to be her roommate, Eva was already past the point of no return and had already decided to reject everyone. So I would say that she did embody the ultimate liar pretty well, by lying to herself, pretending to be someone else to give herself more confidence, and lying to everyone around her as well. I really did like her character, and major props to her voice actress, especially during the later stages of the class trial, when she starts to get angry. What's going to happen with Damon? First of all, I found it interesting that Damon's books were fake while Wolfgang's were of actual cases and law. I wonder if that's Tozu's way of saying he doesn't consider Damon too important, or if it's just meant to reflect Damon's inferiority complex during Wolfgang. Or maybe it's just a reflection of his talent as a debater and an indication that all his talks and debates are just for show. He doesn't actually have any morals or cares about any of the subjects he approaches. This is hinted at by the fact that he quickly discards any information he learned for his previous debate to prepare for the next one. After seeing other people's theories, I'm beginning to think he might actually kill someone in the 5th or 6th chapter, and you can either get the ending with him surviving, or he could confess during the trial. Either way, it seems like he's going to dominate the trials from now on. If you noticed, in the opening cinematic, he's introduced in the class trial area. His interactions with the other students in free time events are also pretty interesting. From what he tells them, we can surmise that he has a good relation with his parents and he is able to financially support them. The fact that his parents manually did his sweater also suggests they are very proud of him and his achievements. I am wondering if Damon's family used to be poor and were able to find financial stability due to his wins in debating competitions. It would explain his more cynical nature. I'll be honest, I actually did expect Diana to be the chapter 1 victim. First of all, credited to Weeby again for predicting she and Eloise will become friends. I don't think they will both survive though. I'm really uncertain about Diana's fate in the killing game after this first chapter. I'm leaning towards survivor or maybe chapter 5 victim or self-sacrificing culprit. In regards to Diana, I think it's very fitting and ironic that she, the self-described chameleon, will change to imitate the sheep in order to fill the role of the virtuous leader left behind by Wolfgang. Thus, the chameleon will become a fake sheep, but I expect the chameleon disguised itself as a sheep will be a better sheep than the actual sheep. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I think Diana will be a much better leader than Wolfgang, who was clearly too controlling and who himself seemed like he had the feelings of inadequacy under a facade of unrelenting naivety. You could argue Wolfgang was also a fake sheep, seeing how he obviously had a dark side he was hiding, but Diana will likely model herself after an idealized image of Wolfgang she has in her head, not on Wolfgang himself. But she will definitely have her challenges. Grace, for example, I think will be rather annoyed by her trying to take Wolfgang's place. She didn't seem inspired by her hope speech at the end of the trial, and she might also blame her a bit for Wolfgang's death, because she didn't say anything about the note for 2 days and remained on the platform rather than jump in the water. So I'm not sure if they will bunk together now that they are both without a roommate. Maybe Eloise will bunk with Diana and Grace with Cassidy, but I can also see Diana remaining by herself from now on. Winona and Damon will also probably oppose her and approach new challenges from a more cynical viewpoint. Eloise and Toshiko will probably be on her side after an apology from the latter, but I do think Diana will suffer overall. Wouldn't it be funny, by the way, if all her roommates kept dying or ended up being a killer?
I just think it's fair we listen.
I do think Eloise has a high chance of being a survivor, or at the very least make it pretty far even after seeing her free time events. I mean, it makes sense not to be trusting of everyone and only get close to a few people, such as Desmond, who she probably feels a kinship over the fact that they both have a dangerous talent, and Diana, who is generally nice to everyone. It also feels like Eloise's free time events are meant to be a subversion of the fact that you, as the main character, get to talk to everyone and get to learn their backstory. I mean, I don't think I would be very talkative either in such a situation, though I would also not threaten anyone. Maybe she distrusts Damon in particular. And I love how her 3/4 time event ends, by the way, with Damon saying to himself, "Geez, all these people are so sensitive." Maybe her threat was meant to gauge his reaction or to protect herself, but it still indicates a dark side to her character. But you do have to wonder, is Damon the only one she'd threaten? What about Grace? If Grace were to gradually lose her power and influence over the group, how would Eloise react? I don't think she'd be very forgiving, that's for sure. But would she just ignore her or feel the need to threaten her like she did with Damon? I mean, remember, Grace also actively dislikes Eloise now, so this whole conflict could escalate further.
Considering the logical ethos of the killer's rectitude, especially when governed under constricting pressure, leaving him catatonic would be the most facile solution.
I'm starting to think Ingrid might not make it and Toshiko will instead lose all her protectors. We'll see. I do like how she's trying to sound very mature by using an overly elevated vocabulary. And obviously, Jett's teasing comes in contradiction to all that. I mean, Toshiko must feel very vulnerable and scared right now, and her trying to act mature might be her way of trying to integrate with the group and not make herself stand out so much. But Jett's teasing is making that difficult. So I guess we'll see how serious this potential conflict will become. Obviously, I don't think Jett means any harm by it, but even some light-hearted teasing that's supposed to alleviate the tension could escalate to something horrible in this situation. So we'll see. The flamingo motif is interesting. Maybe it's a reference to the fact that flamingo birds get their pink color from the diet. You are what you eat, so I wonder if her love for reality TV might have an effect on her. But she seems like a relatively nice and normal girl. I do find it kind of funny how in the trial she turned on Diana pretty quickly, but against Eva she kept making excuses until the last moment. Like, oh, let's discuss how she might have gotten the gamepad before continuing with these accusations, or show us the gamepad and be done with these accusations. Maybe because Eva actually treated her like an adult when she suggested she check Wolfgang's room. I kind of expect she and Diana will make up though.
Shut the fuck up!
For Grace, I'm thinking there will be a fall from Grace, and I'm not just trying to be cheeky. She was basically at the top of the food chain at first, and she associated herself with Wolfgang, who was trying very hard and mostly succeeding to be the leader of the group. Now she doesn't have Wolfgang in her corner. Eloise hates her, and everyone saw how aggressive she was against her. Buenana is annoyed by her, and I'm thinking she won't be on good terms with Diana either. So I'm thinking she will keep making enemies and further isolate herself. Kai is probably the character who is most different than what I imagined he'd be like after the prologue. Basically, I thought he was going to be an annoying, overconfident douche who would antagonize everyone. Would be the constant butt of the joke that would die in a pathetic way. For example, I was expecting him to really butt heads a lot with Cassidy, but they actually seem pretty chill with each other. So sorry Kai for judging you by first impressions and by your ultimate title. You're actually an okay guy. The popularity of the Kai x Damon ship is surprising, and it seems like the shippers will get what they want since Kai has a good chance of becoming a support character. But sorry to break it to you, he's absolutely dying. Maybe in chapter 3 or 4, he'll be a victim, then Damon will be mad and catch the killer in the trial, and then he'll come back to his room and sleep in his bed and be all sad about it and surprise himself by how much he cares about him, and he will cry. If you think anything else will happen, then you are being delulu. I am joking, but I do also think he'll likely be a victim. He would be a rather unconventional survivor though, not someone you would expect to survive. His free time events are also very interesting, and they might actually foreshadow a dark fate for Kai, especially with how Damon cynically phrases things. That for Kai his fans are everything, but for his fans he's just a post in a feed. So what would happen if Kai lost all of his fans? He seems to have some dependent tendencies and abandonment issues. After this chapter, it seems like Kai is most trusting of Damon among the group, but how would he act if the cynical Damon rejected him or tossed him aside in some way? Will the butterfly go back to being a caterpillar?
Oh, I even have the legendary mantle from the 1984's Grand Prix winning speedster.
Right now, I think Jett is my favorite character. Even if he is kind of dumb, I always really like masked characters. Plus, I'm pretty sure he's hiding his tragic circumstances and deep sadness and depression behind his happy attitude and overly friendly demeanor. Obviously, I'm assuming he's using the suit to hide his scars and that he can't fully recover from his injuries. And I'm also assuming he's gained some weight after his accident, since as far as I can tell, race car drivers tend to be pretty fit, which in turn would indicate that he's actually lost all hope of being a race car driver ever again. I could see him having accepted the invitation from the school as a last thread of hope, even if he won't be able to be a racer anymore. Maybe this prestigious school for ultimates could help him find something else to do. Though sadly, I don't think he's making it past chapter 3. If he doesn't get killed by Mark or Toshiko, well, the argument altercation minigame would kind of really fit a racing theme. I am using meta reasoning to conclude he'll die, because you can do a lot of things in a mystery genre with a character that doesn't show his appearance. He could get killed and the killer could impersonate him. Hence my theory in my prediction video about Mark using a voice synthesizer to impersonate him during the trial. The killer could also frame Jett by killing someone in front of another person while wearing Jett's racing suit. At the same time, the impersonation theory could also come up as a red herring during the trial if Jett ends up becoming the killer after all. Basically, I think he'll definitely be involved in a murder case in one way or another. So I'll just appreciate his character as long as he is with us. His voice actor does a really good job with him as well, especially with his comedic delivery. Even though the whole animal and biblical motif really fit the victim and killer of chapter 1, I don't think it will be as straightforward from now on. Eva was the crow, which can symbolize death but also intelligence, and Wolfgang was the sheep and was basically the sacrificial lamb as the first victim of the killing game. I do think people are putting too much stock into the animal motif. I mean, a lot of people think Angr is going to be a killer and suspect she's faking her personality only because her animal is a lion. And okay, maybe she would kill to protect someone, like a lioness with her cubs. But again, I don't think we should put that much stock in the animals. One thing I do find interesting about the animal motif, however, is that the goat is often associated with demons or the devil, but it's also a common sacrificial animal. And all this talk about animals and religion also makes me think of Noah's Ark, so I'm starting to look suspiciously at a certain ship captain.
You'd be surprised by the sort of things our minds can invent.
What's the deal with Jean anyway? In his free time events, he does talk a lot about his adventures at sea, but I was thinking, maybe he's the ship captain of some Disney park ride. It would explain his pirate outfit and why his ship has an arcade on it, but I don't think he should be underestimated. There is definitely a mystery of him and his physical capabilities, especially after seeing his free time events. I still think Cassidy is sus and probably my top suspect for being the mastermind. Here's some circumstantial evidence against her from this chapter. 1. She kind of breaks the fourth wall on occasions and mentions an audience, such as the audience isn't going to like that the detective switches suspects at the last moment. I get that this could just be the way she talks, but it could also be that she literally knows there is an audience watching the killing game. 2. During the blackout when they were in the basement, Grace picks the storage room first and Cassidy is the second one to pick, and takes Jett with her. If you're the mastermind in that situation and know everything that is going on, you want to give Diana an opportunity to flee the scene to make things more interesting. So it would make sense to pick the room with the generator to make sure you wait a bit before repairing the lights. 3. Her secret wasn't anything serious. Sure, she's not the only one, but I feel like the mastermind would have their secret be a benign one. 4. As for organizing the game tournament, she would probably do that both as the mastermind and as a normal person. As for other suspects, I'm basically looking at people who I think are going to survive long, such as Eloise and Desmond. Desmond would also be an interesting and unexpected mastermind. It could be that Mara is actually the real ultimate marksman. But I honestly don't really suspect Desmond that much. I think he'll just be the normal guy who survives. With Ulysses, I'm kinda less suspicious after this first chapter. Aside from his whole coffee addiction, he's also pretty normal guy, and I do like that his free time events have a more serious vibe to them. I know Diana seemed very suspicious to a lot of people because of her emblem and her being associated with fashion. But maybe I completely fell for it. I don't really suspect her that much. I guess it would depend on what the role of the killing game is. What does the mastermind want out of this killing game, and do Diana's actions in the killing game align with that goal? I think the mastermind would probably be someone who takes a more backseat role. But with the whole themes around animals, biblical themes and the Greek letter sanctuaries, I'm also starting to look more closely at people who seem a bit more old-fashioned, such as John and Ingrid. Winona also kinda has a more old-fashioned outfit that seems rooted in her heritage. But like I said in my predictions video, I don't really suspect her, even if she would have the resources for this killing game. After watching the free time events, I did notice a pattern among all the students. First of all, they all seem to be rich due to their talent. Ingrid and Jean could be an exception since they both talked about how they struggled in the past, but now they seem to be financially secure. But another thing I noticed about a lot of them is that there tends to be some secrecy involved with their talent, or they underutilize the talent, or they are ultimates in some kind of low-key way. Here are some examples from what I've noticed. Winona makes it her business strategy to have her company and her name not very known among the general public. Eloise mostly won her matches because her opponents forfeited. Mark is a masked DJ. Jett hasn't raced at all after his accident, plus even now he hides his face. Kai got more famous with his anonymous account than his real one. Jean is definitely not a traditional ship captain, so I bet there is something weird about him as well. Cassidy doesn't do pro gaming stuff anymore and instead focuses on streaming, and even shows some apathy towards her ultimate title. Desmond no longer attends competitions. For Wolfgang, maybe it's his controversial morals as a lawyer that he talks about in his free time events, and his mother is a fairly controversial figure as well. And Eva has some issues with her talent not representing her properly, and she thinks it devalues her. She also hides her ultimate title from her online friends and just tells them she is an ultimate. There's still very little we know about the killing game, though Tozu is acting very theatrically, almost like the host of a reality show. So that is an indication that the current killing game is indeed broadcast to the public, or maybe just a few people. Either way, I think the purpose of the killing game has to be related to the UTP Institute, the one that designates the ultimate titles. Fury 1, destroying the UTP or revenge against it. I think we finally got a clue in regards to the purpose of the killing game. The fact that the Cara was showcased during the execution has to be significant. I think she wasn't really there for Eva, but more for the audience of the killing game, if it actually exists. I mean, there are still a lot of questions regarding the prologue trial. This murder has to have happened in the location they are currently in, so where are they? who was the killer and why was the ultimate teacher's aide carrying around a large machine gun. We also got a clue from Winona's free time events in which she mentions that some people of her clan don't really like the UTP and the whole ultimate system. So I would assume this whole ultimate system is actually fairly controversial. Right now I'm leaning towards the idea that the killing game's purpose is to destroy the UTP and or the ultimate system and or to take revenge against the UTP. I'm thinking it's possible that the UTP is the organization behind the first killing game, the one Cara was in, and by making the current killing game public, the police would also have to investigate Cara's disappearance, which would eventually lead them to investigating the UTP. I am assuming Cara's case was the end of a killing game because it makes sense, plus there is also the theme about history repeating itself. The current killing game could also be some sort of statement, like exposing a corrupt ultimate system, or maybe it's a showcase of the pressure the ultimate system is creating on young people. So far I have noticed that Cassidy, Kai and Eva have expressed or hinted at some displeasure over the UTP and the ultimate system. Ingrid, however, seems to be very grateful to the UTP for her title. On the other hand, it's also possible that the UTP itself is behind the first and current killing game. There seems to be a perception among the public and some of the characters that the UTP and the whole ultimate system is not what it used to be. It has produced a bunch of subpar ultimates. So the UTP could be using this killing game as an experiment to somehow research which ultimate is superior and actually deserving of being an ultimate. In that case, they could see the participants as expendable, as having unimportant talents or somehow being undeserving of their ultimate titles. Basically, they would be using a bunch of useless people to see how they can improve the assignment of the ultimate titles and the ultimate system overall. You could argue that there is no way Wolfgang or Winona would be deemed useless or undeserving of their title, but you could find arguments for that. For example, Wolfgang is not a typical lawyer with his age and how he only takes on clients who he thinks are innocent. His ideal of a lawyer's conscience being rewarded might seem too unconventional, especially if he is the son of another controversial figure in the field. Winona can also be scrutinized. Although she did have to make some good decisions, she started her business by taking in $1.5 million from her clan, and later basically lied through her marketing. I could also see her making a lot of enemies and people being overly critical of her, because she has basically created a monopoly on agriculture in just a few years. Most of the other characters have niche talents, and Damon, even though he has a lot of pride, probably has the most useless talent in my opinion. No offense to any debaters out there, but for a debate you don't actually need to believe in anything. You just need to find arguments to support your chosen or designated position. He says debating is good for advancing society, but I'm not sure even if he believes that. Cara has to have a connection to Mara. Mara is definitely not Cara, because Cara is dead and her case happened a long time ago, according to Tozu. I was thinking maybe they were sisters or mother and daughter at first, but now I'm thinking maybe Mara is the Cara of this killing game, as in Mara has the same role Cara had in the original killing game, and Mara is just an alias. If so, is Mara actually a participant in the killing game, and one of the other students is actually the mastermind? That's an idea I got after reading the rules of the killing game. Here's a look at all the rules so far. As many people have already noticed, Rule 1 seems to stand out because it says that students or unwilling participants in the killing game must live at the academy until the headmaster releases them, and it shows icons of 16 people and Tozu. The phrasing of this rule could imply several things. First, the number of students and or participants in the killing game is never outright stated in the rules. It's only implied that there are 16 by the image for this rule. Of course, there are 16 students' podiums in the class trial and dorms, but that's beside the point. Beware the 17th student hidden inside the Eden Gardens Academy. Second, is it possible one person is an unwilling participant in the killing game, but not a student? Let's analyze the implications if this were the case. I'll call this possible person the fake student. One of the rules mentions that if a student kills another student, there will be a class trial. So if the fake student kills or is killed, that won't count for a class trial. The fake student is free to damage the killing game property, is free to attack Tozu or Mara, and it's not mandatory for them to participate in the class trial and don't get executed in case of a wrong vote. But they do get a vote, just like every other killing game participant. If the fake student exists, then this person can't be Winona, Cassidy, or Kai, and it's unlikely to be Grace, Eloise, Desmond, Ingrid, Wolfgang, or Damon, since all of them are somewhat public about their talent. So we are left with Eva, Diana, Toshiko, Jean, Ulysses, Jett, as in the Jett we know is the person impersonating the real Jett Dawson, or Mark, since the public doesn't know how the DJ Mark is claiming to be looks like. And although I joked about it, there could also just be a 17th person hidden somewhere who is not a student but an unwilling participant, and they could just watch the trials and get to vote. Or would Mara or Tozu be an unwilling participant in the killing game? Nowhere in the rules does it say that Tozu is the headmaster, even though he calls himself as such. Right now I'm thinking Tozu is indeed a headmaster, or at the very least not an unwilling participant since he seems to enjoy his role, but there is also a slim possibility that the headmaster is not him, but one of the students. And what about Mara? Could she be an unwilling participant in the killing game with the special role of enforcer? Or maybe she's a student and one of the students is a fake student or the headmaster. If she is an unwilling participant, I'm thinking she would have the task of killing the survivor of the killing game after it ends, and Cara and Mara would be people who had the same role for their respective killing games. Finally, since the rule mentions unwilling participants, could there also be a willing participant in the killing game? Obviously there are a lot of possibilities. These ideas are just speculation though, and whatever the writers have planned, I'm sure it will be exciting. Like I said, I don't want to go through every character again to form a prediction because it'll probably be wrong anyway. But I do hope you found my ramblings about Chapter 1 somewhat interesting. Feel free to make your own videos or comment with your own theories and predictions. If you're someone from the project, hope you found some of the feedback useful as well. And again, thank you very much for your work and congratulations and good luck with any of your future endeavors, either related to this project or otherwise. Have a good day.